Welcome to Norwegian black metal time. This time we go to the new wave of Norwegian black metal. Still the second wave, but not quite the old ones from the 90s. This is Koldbrann, which some people still might think it's the new kids on the block kind of a band. But let's be honest about it, this band is now more than 20 years old. I mean, they have been active since 2001, so over 20 years and yet still feeling the new band coming from Norway. While a lot of Norwegian bands went on the decline phase around 97, 98, some would even say 96. And for a long time it felt like Norwegian black metal is gone as opposed to what was going on in the early 90s or mid 90s. Certainly 2000 come and some newer bands take the game like, hey, we Norwegians never left the building, even though Swedes, Finns and so many other places were like, okay, we're gonna take the torch and keep it going. Koldbrann is one of those bands that kind of kept the Norwegian black metal flame going on, and even if they are somewhat newer, younger generation to this game, now, like I said, they have been into the game for quite some time. And now, few albums in, this is the very, very new take on their era, and let's talk about that. This band, 5 guys, giving it a kind of a classic take on things, you know, a little bit corpse paint, and not being looking goofy like so many post-black or modern black metal bands and third wave, what have you. Still not being ever the most active bands. I mean, let's talk about it. Early on, 2003, releasing debut album only after a couple of demos, which means quite quickly, considering they were out there 2010. 2001. Then Moribund 2006. So, still keeping the pace going on. But something happened here between Moribund and Vertigo. Suddenly 7 years break. And now 9 years break after the previous ones. Now, if you go click to the members list, you will find out that only one member, Manne Bond, who now actually plays in Kraft, the Swedish black metal band, live, 2 as vocals, is the only original member. But there is one other old member from 2002, Kvass. The rest of the guys, 2009, 2021. So things have obviously changed. Here it says 4 guys. With the picture you will see 5. And then there is this background with various ex-band members and all. But we're not talking about the retrospective take on the band, but we'll talk about this 4th album, Ingen, skånsel, which is almost a 1-hour album, all in all featuring 11 tracks. Now this track list is not updated with the length and all because I'm actually shooting this video a few days before the final release date, which is mentioned here as August 23rd. Now it's the 19th, so yeah, I haven't updated the track lengths here, but it's more than 50 minutes, 53 or so, give or take. So what can we expect from this album is, of course, the main question, and I would say this is in a way like taking the time train back to the 90s. Well, at least almost. Maybe it's fair to say this reeks of 2000s, but it is very, very much keeping the flame alive from the early 90s. So yes, this is very much a second wave of black metal thing, now with just more modern sound. Don't take the word modern here as a warning, as a red flag or whatever. I'm just saying, obviously things have changed since 1991. And one thing is, a lot of bands sound more powerful with their guitar works, with the drums, well, with mixing, mastering, what have you. And this is one of those albums. So while the songwriting is very, very much like keeping the 90s alive and not changing basically one bit, the only major difference, and we can call it major, is the production value, which is very, very much today. Now, one might think that when you have 11 tracks and over 50 minutes, closing 60 minutes, might be too much to swallow one go, and especially when you're thinking about some of the early works when albums were a little bit less lengthy, it might be too much of a drag to go through 11 songs. And that's actually one of my initial ideas when I see a new album and see the track, like the whole album length, and I'm like, man, are you kidding me, this much? Because it's not given Even if a band is able to put out a couple of good singles, that you have more than 50 minutes of good stuff. I mean, most banders struggle with already 35 or so, but somehow Koldbrann is able to just nail it. When I was listening to this for a few times, I was enjoying my ride. There's not a single weak moment where I feel like, okay, it's boring, or I'm going to skip this song, or it's made of filler parts with some highlights here and there. Now, on the downside, there are no actual hit songs if you're looking for them. And now when people remind, hey, black metal is not about hit songs and all, I'm saying, like, listen to the early Dark Thrones, or Bertrams, or Immortals, or Emperors, or Enslaved, Satricons, etc., all the mayhems and stuff, and suddenly you get to actually name some of those hit songs. You could names like Freezing Moon or Funeral Folk from Mayhem. You could mention a bunch of names from Dark Throne and Bertram. So yeah, there is this thing called hit song even with black metal. And unfortunately, Koldbrann doesn't really have this one or those ones with this Ingen skånsel album. Does it mean that this is a weak or just decent album? No, it doesn't. Because in fact, this is very, very solid and consistent album from the very beginning to the very end. Meaning, while there are no absolute hit songs, like the ones that are like instant drilling in your brain and all that stuff, it also doesn't have those weak points. Like I said, there are no fillers. So even though if you're like maybe not getting the, this is gonna nail Jesus Christ back to the cross kind of moments, at least it's just bringing you to the Roman army, to the game, and like giving the celebration you're looking for. That is the very, very second wave feeling, even if with the more modern sound. So is Koldbrann really, ready to challenge the Album of the Year title? Maybe not, but it's, in my opinion, still one of the better ones from 2024. And I would be really surprised if it's not in my top 10 albums for 2024 when it's the time to do that. I mean, after all, we're already in August, and I would say this is a very, very good challenger, very good contender for that particular list. So, come top 10 list in December, January, whatever, and I would say I'm surprised if Koldbrann is not on that list. It's a strong album, and I think a lot of people really need to listen to that, even if you're one with doubts and all. Give it a go after August 23rd, which means probably the date when this review is out. It's a good one, even if not super great one. Still, definitely one of the better ones this year. So off you go and give it a listen. Bye bye.